Joining me now, MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin. So LULAC, Lisa, is asking the Department of Justice to look into this.
Yeah, and Katie, based on what we know so far, perhaps with some good reason, because some of these efforts, while described as an attempt to enforce Texas laws for voter integrity as part of Ken Paxton's voter integrity unit, they seem designed more to intimidate people who are trying to encourage and incentivize citizens to vote. There's no indication so far that these voter registration efforts are tied to voting from about 1,900 non-citizens in Texas. Law enforcement efforts with respect to that non-citizen voting is separate and apart from these raids. So while we don't know that the Department of Justice will follow up on LULAC's complaint, it is a complaint that thus far, based on what we know, sounds well-founded and something within the Department of Justice's wheelhouse to investigate in its voting component of the Civil Rights Unit.
So is that what Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton presented to get the search warrants, those undocumented voters?
It's not clear what Ken Paxton presented to get those search warrants, and we know that the raids earlier last week, that they were extensive, that, as you mentioned in your opening, that many of those who were targeted are longtime activists, not only in the Latino community, but also Democratic activists. One of those whose home was raided, for example, is running for a state house seat against the former mayor of Uvalde, someone in their 70s or 80s. So while we don't know what evidence was presented, the fact that they are swabbing people's cheeks for DNA in an investigation that's apparently about voter fraud definitely has me scratching my head about what that could be about. And also whether this is, instead of trying to root out voter fraud, some sort of preemptive attempt to say to the Latino community, we're watching you, and to the extent that you are going through vote harvesting efforts that are unlawful in some way, we are going to disincentivize you from doing that, even if the illegality here is incidental and not intentional.
All right, I want to ask you about Georgia. We've been talking a lot about the election board out there changing the rules to say that you can ask for an inquiry that is reasonable. They use the word reasonable inquiries are fair. But because that word is so vague, the Democrats, the party down there, is saying it's too vague and it's going to sow chaos. You also have Secretary of State Raffensperger saying he, too, believes this is too late in the game and that it'll be chaotic come Election Day. Do they have a case?
I think they do have a case. First of all, there are 159 different counties in Georgia. So when people like Secretary of State Raffensperger complain about the chaos that could be sown here, there is reason to say that. There are so many different counties administering county-level elections. The rule that's been sued on, there are actually two of them. One is that reasonable inquiry rule that you just spoke of. There's another rule that allows county-level election board members to demand any and all election-related documentation prior to the certification of results. But there's a Georgia state statute that says all counties have to certify election results by a time and date certain. And that's the concern of the plaintiffs here, who are not just the Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Party of Georgia, but a number of local election board members who saying right before the election to implement these rules seems to suggest to people that they have discretion that they don't. We need to know clearly and concisely what those rules are so that we can carry out our own duties. I think they definitely have a case, Katie, in asking for that clarity from the court. The question is, how fast can they get a ruling from the Fulton County Superior Court? So what I'm expecting next to happen is for somebody to say, hey, we need to get this case moving in an expedited way. We haven't seen that come yet. Perhaps we'll see that in the days to come.
Yeah, and part of the issue is if they don't certify the election by that date, what happens after that? And can those votes be sent to Congress for counting, for the official count that happens in early January? It was January 6th, obviously, a few years ago. Is it the same date again? Lisa Rubin. Lisa, thank you very much. Joining me now, Congresswoman Nikema Williams, chair of the Georgia Democratic Party. Thank you very much. Good to see you. I saw you there on the convention floor at the DNC last week, standing next to Little John. Little John, I should say, not Little. Let me ask you.
Too many letters, Katie. Too many letters.
I know. God, I seem old. Let me ask you about these rules. The DNC down there is saying this isn't fair, it's too vague, and it's problematic. Lisa just explained the legal issues at play. How do you see it playing out at the polls and in the days after?
So I'm the chairwoman of the Democratic Party of Georgia, and so we have been monitoring this situation in all 159 counties. Georgia has a lot of counties, only second to Texas. What we know is that each county has different rules and ways on how they certify their elections and the election results. And because of rules that were changed and laws that were passed in the aftermath of our historic victories in 2020, we saw Republicans changing the laws. We played by the rules, so they changed them. And so what we're seeing now is more changes in these rules where they want to give independent or individual county parties the opportunity to not certify election results, where the state code does not allow for that. The state code says that each county must certify the election results. But we saw this leading up to the November election. In my county, right here in Fulton County, where Atlanta is, we had Republicans on the County Board of Elections refusing to certify the primary election results because of all of these random document requests that she was requesting. So we know that they've been trying to set up this case so that they cannot certify a very valid election that is going to be in November. So we are not taking anything for chance, and we filed a lawsuit yesterday, the Democratic Party of Georgia, so that we can make sure that all election results are certified in line with the state statute.
I think it's interesting that Donald Trump knows the Georgia Election Board members by name. Let's listen to him.
That should tell you a lot.
Let's listen to him at a rally in Georgia just the other day.
I don't know if you've heard, but the Georgia State Election Board is in a very positive way. This is a very positive thing, Marjorie. They're on fire. They're doing a great job. 3 members. Janice Johnson, Rick Jeffries, and Janelle King. 3 people are all pit bulls fighting for honesty, transparency, and victory. They're fighting.
It was on August 3rd. What do you make of, is it normal for a presidential candidate to know the members of a state's election board?
That is so far from the norm for not only elected officials, but a presidential candidate to call out election board members by name. These are people who should be doing a job that does not rise to the level of the media or a presidential candidate, because it's about certifying the election. It's not about Democratic, Republican, or independent voters. It's about every vote that is cast should be counted. And so for him to single these people out, that already raises alarms that there is something nefarious at play. But we've seen this time and time again when Donald Trump came back after the 2020 election and asked our Secretary of State to help him find those votes, those 11,780 votes that he lost Georgia by. Every time that we counted the results, he tried to overturn the will of the voters, and he's just trying to get ahead of it this time. But we are also watching everything that he's doing. We've already filed the lawsuit. It was just filed yesterday, and we are hopeful that we will get some relief from the Superior Court here in Fulton County so that we can assure voters, not Democratic voters, but all Georgia voters, that if they show up and cast their ballot, it will be counted.
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are going to be doing a bus tour in Georgia coming up, and they're not going to be in Fulton County. They're not going to be in DeKalb County. They're not going to be over by Savannah. They're doing southern Georgia. What does it say to you that they're going beyond those places?
So we have been very clear that to win in Georgia, we are not ceding any territory. We are looking at every corner of every county. And that means rural Georgia, urban Georgia, suburban Georgia. All Georgians' votes matter in this election. And we're going to take our message of freedom and opportunity to everyone on this campaign trail. I am enthused to welcome them back to the Peach State. And I will be meeting them tomorrow down in South Georgia for this bus tour so that we can have direct conversations with the voters. Because at the end of the day, the voters will have the final say in this election when we send President Kamala Harris to the White House.
Is Georgia still purple?
Georgia's not purple, it's not blue, it's not red. We're periwinkle, and we've got to do the work to make sure that we continue to deliver for all Georgians, not Democrats, not Republicans, because we know that Kamala Harris will be a president for all Georgians.